I used to belong to the 97% who couldn't be bothered even if it was easy. Here's my advice to you today. Walk away from the 97%. Don't talk like they talk. Don't act like they act. Don't go where they go. Don't specialize in what they specialize in. Throw away the blameless they cling to. Start you a new life. You say, well, is it as simple as getting a library card and join the 3%? And the answer is, of course. Of course. That's how easy this stuff is. This is so easy. It's so simple. It's not complex. You don't need a 2,000-year-old guru. You don't need multi-track affirmations. I'm telling you, don't. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. Key. Don't let somebody sweep you into some contrary way to nature itself. Says unless you labor the miracle of the seed and the soil and the seasons and God and all the other stuff that's available, sunshine and rain, that's not available to you by affirmation. It is only available to you by labor. So labor well, learn well, discipline yourself well, and you can have all the treasures you want. This stuff's easy and simple. It's not ocean waves and seagulls. First thing you know, this whole scenario for you is spinning up instead of out of control. On the negative side, this is all you got to do. It's as simple as this. It's as simple as start committing yourself to life change. And once you start down this road, I promise you, you'll join the 10% and the 3%. Guess how many people can retire from the income of their own personal resources when it comes time to retire? Answer, 5%. In the most independent country in the world, 95% are dependent, 5% are independent. Take charge of your own retirement. I'm telling you, if you take charge of your own retirement through personal development and all these skills we've taught today, take charge of your own retirement. You can multiply it at least by 5, maybe by 10, maybe by 20, maybe by 100. Let the government take care of it. Some company take care of it. You got to divide by 5. Take charge of your own life. Take charge of your own day. Take charge of your own conversation. Take charge of your own family. Take charge of your own possibilities and learn these skills. Develop this kind of strategy, and I'm telling you, life will open up for you. Join the 3%. Join the 10%. Join the 5%. Walk away from the 95%. Find out what poor people read and don't read it. I'm telling you, don't talk like they talk. Lend a helping hand. But don't fall into their poor philosophical scenario. Don't blame what they blame. Don't use the excuses they use. It's called the language of the poor. Switch gears. Switch language. Switch ideas. Switch strategy. Start with the simplest of disciplines. And don't be mean any of these disciplines. The smallest of disciplines starts the process of life change. And if you'll invest in this thing called discipline, you can have whatever you wish. It's called the beginning of a miracle. We all must suffer one of two pains, regardless of your choice of lifestyle and what you want to do. We must all suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And what we suggest to everybody is to consider the disciplines, because disciplines weigh Oz, regrets weigh tons. You don't want to substitute a discipline for a regret. In our opinion, that would be a poor choice. Now, you can do it, but some things are poor trade-offs. The old prophet said, what if you gained the whole world, but it cost you your soul? Would that be worth it? And with a bit of intelligence, we say, no, that doesn't seem worth it. Even if you got the whole world, if you traded your soul, that experience would be so bitter and so awful and so devastating, it wouldn't be worth it. What if you got some gain by greed instead of legitimate ambition? I'm telling you, it might taste good up front, but it's going to turn bitter in the belly. Our world is and always will be a constant battle between the life of ease and its momentary rewards and a life of discipline and its far more significant rewards. Each has its own price. The price of discipline or the price of regret. We will pay one or the other one of my key phrases for the whole day. Disciplines work miracles. Disciplines work miracles. And here's the first piece that works. Miracles. 1, do what you can do. Not let neglect grab you by the throat. Don't let neglect stall you on your path toward prosperity and health. Being able to become powerful, influential, rich beyond wildest imagination. Don't neglect what you can do. If you can, read. Read if you can. Change. Change if you can. Grow. Grow if you can. Take one step. Take one step. Do not neglect to do whatever you can do at the moment. Of course, you can't run a multi-billion-dollar business today. Mark couldn't either 10 years ago. Mark couldn't either 5 years ago. But I'm telling you today, he can do it because step by step, year by year, he took on what he could do. He didn't neglect it. He did the meetings he could do. He made the calls he could make. He read the books he could read. He took the classes he could take. And step by step, he got himself ready. I'm telling you, do not neglect to do whatever you can do because it'll work. Miracles of personal development first, productivity second. Now do what you can. Here's 2. Do the best you can. If it's a foggy night and you can only see 100 feet, how can you see another 100 feet? Answer. Walk the first 100 feet. Walk as far as you can see. And then you can see some more and walk as far as you can see. And then you can see some more. So what you've picked up here, just do it as far as you can see it. And I promise you, if you'll execute as far as you can see it, you'll be able to see more. Do that, then you can see more. And finally get in tune of doing the best you can. And you'll have the activity that'll develop the disciplines that will set this sail so that you can say, it doesn't matter how the wind blows. I'm prepared for some people. They see discipline as sort of an ugly word. You know, don't talk to me about discipline. But what you must understand is discipline is a most incredible creative force. Discipline builds a career. Discipline develops good health. Discipline forms the most incredible marriage. Discipline puts together a friendship that won't quit forever. Discipline develops skills that can be magnified, and touch the world. Disciplines opens up music. You can't have incredible music without discipline. In fact, we call them the disciplines. We call architecture and music, and we call playing an instrument, we call sculpturing. We call painting. We call writing, composing. We call those the disciplines. And the disciplines gives us the indication that, yes, it doesn't come except by discipline. But it also means that the discipline is the open door to the creative process, to turn nothing into something, and to turn imagination into reality. So here's what you must learn to do. Appreciate the disciplines and welcome the disciplines. Here's a good question to ask. What other discipline could I begin that would open up a whole new expression in my life of turning imagination into reality? Without discipline, there is no enterprise. Without discipline, there is no magnificent structure. Without discipline, there is no music. Without discipline, there is no health. Without discipline, there is no advantage. There is no future. So discipline is all when it comes to imagination. Having something real, believing in it, and turning it into reality. The key to development is to be all that you can possibly be. I don't know what your talents are. I don't know what your skills are. But here's what I probably am right on that you're behind on an accelerated effort toward your full development. I would suggest that now, for some of you, I know that's probably really not true. But even as I look at my own life, because, I'm tempted to procrastinate just like everybody else. I should have written 30 books by now. I've only written 4 or 5. I should have done a lot of things, but I haven't. I got distracted. And all of us, have these challenges. But what could I become? What could I become? I had one of my dearest friends. I've lost him. He died at age 53 one day. and he drank a little too much. David drank a little too much, but he did all kinds of things. He was a builder, and he was a dreamer, and he did a lot of things. But his drinking sort of kept him in a fog for like years and years. About 6 years ago, he was sitting at the Yacht Club, and he was in a fog. And suddenly it occurred to him, I wonder what I could have accomplished in all these years if I hadn't have been in this sort of foggy state. And he said that did it. And the last 6 years before he died, he was free. And he accomplished some incredible things. That last 6 years being all that you can be and not let habits drag you down, not let things, sidetrack you from the full development of what you have, the capable of being what? What all could your heart encompass? If you really had the chance and you really had the disciplines and really got to it, what could you really become? What could you earn? How healthy could you really be? How many books could you write? How many poems could you write? So here's what I would ask of you. If you feel that you're a little bit stalled wherever you are in your progress, I'm asking you to correct that. I'm asking you to see if you can't possibly be on a more accelerated track toward your possibilities and your full development. Here's what life is all about. To become all that we can possibly be. The full development of all of your potential. That's number one. Number two is the wise use of all of your resources. That's what life is all about. Discipline. If there is a magic word that stands out above all the rest, this is the one: discipline. Discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment, the bridge between inspiration and value. Achievement, the bridge between necessity and productivity. Remember, all good things are upstream. The passing of time takes us adrifting, and drifting only brings us the negative, the disastrous, the disappointment, and the failure. Failure is not a cataclysmic event. It is not generally the result of one major incident, but rather a long list of accumulated little failings. Failing in life is failing to think today, failing to act today, failing to care, to strive, to climb, to learn, to keep trying day by day. If your goal requires that you write 10 letters today and you write only 3, you are down 7 letters. If you want to make 5 calls and you only make 1, you are down 4 on calls. If your plan calls for saving $10 today and you save none, you're down $10 today. Now the danger is looking at an undisciplined day and concluding that no great harm has been done. It doesn't seem like such a bad day. But add up these days to make a year, and then add up those years to make a lifetime. And perhaps you can now see how repeating today's small failures can easily turn your life into a major disaster. Success, on the other hand, is just the same process in reverse. If you plan to make 10 calls and you end the day making 15, now you're up 5 calls. If you then get up a few on letters, move up the savings numbers. You can see what a massive difference it could make in a year and what wealth and accomplishment awaits for a lifetime. Discipline is like a set of magic keys that unlocks all the doors of wealth, happiness, sophistication, culture, high self-esteem, pride, joy, accomplishment, satisfaction, and success. The first key to discipline is awareness of the need for and the value of discipline, and especially the discipline to make the changes. What will it take? What must I do and what must I become to get all I want from my life? The second key is the willingness. More than that, the eagerness to maintain your new discipline deliberately, wisely, consistently. And the third key to discipline is the commitment to master the circumstances of your daily life, to see and harness the opportunities, to make something of the sun and the rain, the good as well as what comes in the guise of misfortune. Discipline does many things, but most important of all is what it does for you. It makes you feel better about yourself. Even the smallest discipline can have an incredible effect on your attitude and the good feeling you get. That surging feeling of self-worth that comes from starting a new discipline is almost as good as the feeling that comes from the accomplishment of the discipline. Second, a new discipline immediately alters your life direction. You don't change destinations immediately that is yet to come, but you can change direction immediately, and direction is very important. Third, discipline cooperates with nature. Everything strives. It is a common life function. How tall will a tree grow? As tall as it can. Everything strives to become all it can possibly be. And that striving to become is what discipline is all about. Disciplining ourselves to fulfill our natural potential, to become all that we can be. And finally, discipline attracts opportunity. Opportunity is always looking for ambition and skill in action. Discipline taps the unlimited power of commitment. The human will in action, driven by inspiration, enticed by desire, tempered by reason, guided by intelligence, can bring you to that high and lofty place called the good life. Get some momentum going on your new commitment to the better life. See how many activities you can pile on in this first day. Go all out. Break away from the negative downward pull of gravity. Start the thrusters going. Prove to yourself that waiting is over, hoping is past, and that faith and action have now taken charge. It's a new day, a new beginning for your new life. With discipline, you can't believe the list of positive moves you can make in the first day of your new beginning. Here's the time to act. When the idea is hot and the emotion is strong, that's the time to act. You say, "Mr. Rohn, I'd like to have a library like yours." See if you feel strong about that. What you've got to do is get the first book and then get the second book before the feeling passes and before the idea gets dim. Action prompto. Action. Immediate action as soon as possible. Because if you don't, here's what happens. We call it the law of diminishing intent. We intend to when the idea strikes us. We intend to when the emotion is high. But now, if you don't translate that into action fairly soon, now the intent starts to diminish. And a month from now, it's cold. A year from now, can't be found. So act. Set up a discipline. When the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful, that's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Says, right, I need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups, action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity disciplines. Now here's what's important about disciplines. All disciplines affect each other. In fact, here's a good philosophical phrase. Everything affects everything else. Nothing stands alone. Don't be naive in saying, well, this doesn't matter. I'm telling you, everything matters. There are some things that matter more than others, but there isn't anything that doesn't matter. Okay? We all pity the man who says, well, this is the only place I let down. Not true key to take home. Every letdown affects the rest of your performance. Every letdown affects the rest. This is part of the educational process on personal development. If you don't take the walk around the block, you probably won't do the apple a day. If you don't do the apple a day, you probably won't start building your library. If you don't build your library, you probably won't keep a journal, and you won't take pictures, and you won't do this. You won't do wise things with your money, won't do wise things with your time, won't do wise things with your possibilities and relationships. And the first thing you know,
leadership is really the challenge to be something better than mediocre, something better than average. The step above, not just to be above from ego standpoint, but the step above so you can help someone else. What speaker was it that said, in order to lift someone up, you must be on higher ground? How true, and the challenge of leadership to be something more than average or mediocre has these components. Make this list. This is a good list. Learn to be strong, but not rude. Strength. We need rudeness we don't need. Here's where it's important to learn the graces, not just the skills. Next, be kind, but not weak. Sometimes it's easy to mistake weakness for kindness, but not true. Kindness is a powerful strength, but don't let your kindness become weakness. Next, learn to be bold, but not a bully. Boldness. We need bully. We don't need throwing weight around. We don't need trying to impress. We don't need express, yes, but impress, no. Next is to be thoughtful, but not lazy. To dream, but not just become a dreamer. To think, but not just become a thinker. To have a philosophy, but not to become just a philosopher. I know they call me, the great business philosopher, which I like the title. It's okay. But my philosophy says, jot it down. Results is the name of the game. The name of the game is not philosophy. Philosophy is just a useful tool to set you on a good track so that a year from now you'll be in a better place than you would have on the old track. Hopefully most everybody here, maybe everybody here, is going to set a new track for your health and for your family and for your future and for your activity and for your productivity and for your spirituality and all the rest of good values. So be thoughtful but not lazy. Here's the next one. Be proud but not arrogant. Pride. We need team pride and community pride and state pride and country pride and personal pride and family pride, but not arrogance. Don't let your pride slip into arrogance. Here's the next one. Be humble but not timid. Some people mistake timidity for humility, but humility is a virtue. Timidity is an illness, a malady that can be corrected. You can learn to drive your timidity into such a small corner. It does not now disturb the rest of the house. Here's one more in terms of sophistication. It doesn't take much to learn and practice the art of sophistication. Here's a good one. Humor without folly. Humor has its place, but just don't cross the line so that your humor becomes folly. Next, it's okay to be witty, but not silly. If you want to lead as a parent, and lead as a manager, and lead as an entrepreneur, if you want to lead as a community leader, and lead as a senator, and lead as an important person of influence and power, witty. Yes. Silly? No. Is there something that your top achievers do that the people that aren't achieving at their level do? I'll give you two things. So first thing is, we could put this different ways, but they reclaim their habits faster than most people, or they get back on track quickly. So top performers make mistakes like everybody else. But, and I think most of us know this or have felt this from going through life, which is it's almost never the first mistake that ruins you. It's the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. It's like it's letting slipping up become a new habit. That is the real problem. And if you make one mistake, you miss a workout, or you miss a deadline, or you flop on a speech or a presentation. If you get back on track quickly, if the next time, the next iteration you don't miss, and you're right back where you were before, then your progress is generally maintained, and you can just continue to advance from there. But if you miss a workout, and then one would miss, workout becomes 2 weeks, and that becomes 2 months. Well, now all of a sudden you have backslided a fair amount, and you got to regain all that ground. And so I would say, another way to think about this is like a lot of people are focused on what can I achieve on my best day? And that's kind of how they select their habits. Like, what's the best thing I could do when I'm at my best? But instead, you could ask yourself, what can I stick to even on my worst day? And I think that could be your baseline. And if you try to raise that baseline a little bit, so that your bad days are a little bit better than they were before, then you never eat into the compounding as much. You don't lose that progress as much. So I think that's pretty good. They respond from mistakes quickly. And then the second thing is more of a mantra or a mindset, a way to think about things than a specific action. But this is a phrase that comes from Frank Slubman. He's the CEO of Snowflake, the software company. And basically, it's something to the effect of narrow the focus up the quality, increase the speed, so narrow the focus, do less, stop trying to do so much. It's very hard to be almost. We could maybe even say it's impossible to be a top performer in a dozen different things, like you have to choose what isn't what matters most, so do less. Narrow the focus up the quality. Once you have selected those few things that truly matter, do them at an exceptional degree, right? Do them in a very high level way, and then finally up. Increase the speed only once you've selected a few things to focus on and you do them at a high level. Then you can worry about shipping more consistently, or increasing the volume, or scaling the project or whatever. And those are simple ideas.
But I think that top performers take those simple ideas very seriously. And you'd be surprised how far they can take you if you do take them seriously. When I was starting out, one of the best things that somebody said to me early on was try things until something comes easily. And I think if you break that phrase down, there are two important pieces. The first is trying things, which means you need to have a philosophy of experimentation. This is actually quite different than what a lot of people do when they start out. A lot of people feel like what they need to do is read more and research more and try to, discover everything that's out there. And it's not that you shouldn't plan. It's not that preparation isn't useful, it is useful. But at some point, planning becomes its own form of procrastination. And when that happens, it's not useful anymore. And so you have to have some willingness to experiment, to try things, to test stuff out, and see what works specifically for you. What matters most is not if it's like the best strategy that's ever been designed. What matters is, will it work for you and for your situation? And you can only figure that out by experimenting. So that's the first part. And then the second piece is until something comes easily. Now, the key distinction here is that does not mean that it is easy, right? It doesn't mean that it's going simply or smoothly. It just means that the results are coming more easily than the other stuff that you had tried. You may still have to work very hard to get that outcome. But this, I also think, helps reveal like your strengths in the situation. So a lot of people think like your strengths are just something that like must come effortlessly to you or something. But actually, in many cases, your strength is the thing that's challenging, or the suffering or the pain that you can handle better than most people. So it's not that it's not challenging for you, it's just that you seem to be able to handle that form of pain a little bit better than most people. And I think if you look at a lot of top performers, they're like that. You know, it's not that athletes aren't working hard. It's nothing not sweating. It's nothing. It's not tough to be in the gym and like doing the next rep. It's just that they can kind of handle that pain, you know, like that form of suffering isn't that bad for them relative to the average person. And so you're looking for those two qualities, the philosophy of experimentation and the ability to get results in a way that allows you to handle that struggle a little bit better than others. There's a chapter in the book called The Secret to Self-Control. And I talk about some of the studies and research around willpower and so on. And one of the key findings is that people who exhibit high willpower, who appear on the surface to have a great deal of willpower, the primary thing that is different between them and people who appear to have low levels of willpower is that they are in environments where they are tempted less. So their environment is primed for them to be high willpower. And I think that alone should inform a lot of your strategy. Again, how do we stack the deck in your favor? How do you design an environment where you don't need to be a superhero just to get something done?
Like if you're constantly putting yourself in a tough position where you're fighting against the friction of the environment you're in, it's almost like a form of gravity. It sort of pulls you toward it. If I could pick one topic that I think is even more important than I realized when I wrote the book, I would probably say it's this. We are all part of multiple tribes. Some of those tribes are large, like what it means to be American or what it means to be French. And some of those tribes are smaller, like what it means to be a neighbor. Next, every leader must understand the law of averages so you can use it for your benefit and for your company, anything you might be involved in. Here's what the law of averages says. If you do something often enough, you'll get a ratio of results, and anyone can create this ratio. In baseball, we simply call it batting average. If you go up to bat 10 times, get a hit, we say you're batting 103 hits out of 10. You're batting 300. You don't have to be perfect going up to bat these days. Batting 200, 300, you can make $4,000 or $5,000 a year in sales.
That's about all you got to do. You don't need to bat a thousand salt, right? You don't need to bat perfect. You can get plenty of no's, but the yeses can make you rich. So don't worry about the no's. Concentrate on the yeses that make you rich. Key. Once the ratio starts, it tends to continue. If you can get one, yes. Out of 10 presentations, chances are, if you give 10 more presentations, you get another 10 more, you get another 1. Next, the ratio can be improved. The 4th time you talk to 10, you get 2 instead of 1. Now you're starting to grow. We must also understand the ratio and the law of averages when it comes to dealing with all of the projects concerning human beings. Here's the simple ratio. Everything's a pyramid. Just make that note. Everything is a pyramid. And the reason is because all humans are different in temperament and desire and goal setting. If we go to university and we count the number of freshmen, so now we count the number of sophomores, is it the same number of sophomores as freshmen? This stuff's not hard. Now this is real easy stuff. If we count now, the sophomores are there just as many sophomores as freshmen. And the answer is no. Somebody says, why is that? It's just one of those things. You don't need to study this now. If in the university we were to now count the juniors, the junior class, count them, would there be as many juniors as sophomores? No, you say, well, shouldn't we fix this? And the answer is no. This is the way it is, since everybody's different. Everybody has different ambitions. This is not moral value. Now that we place on that morally, sophomores are better than freshmen, we say no. It's just that the numbers are smaller. Are there as many seniors as juniors? No. Now here is one answer to why number one, life takes its inevitable toll. Some didn't make it from one class to the next simply because their life was taken. They lost their life. Next, each human being has a different set of visions for their own future. Some are willing to settle for more safety than risk. Safer to be an employee than to be an entrepreneur. So that's not a moral question between being an employee and an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's a matter of temperament. And sometimes you have to be careful what you teach in mass because there's such a variety of temperament. There was one philosophy for a while that said everybody should plunge into debt, mortgage your house and mortgage your car, and pile up as much debt as you possibly can. Then you'll have this unbelievable incentive to become incredibly successful. Well, jot this down. What's an incredible incentive to one is devastation to another. So you can't recommend grandly something like that because it depends on a person's temperament.
Somebody says we all should, probably not. So you have to be careful what you teach in mass. Not everybody should, not everybody will, and this is not a moral question.
Here's what it is. Personal decision. And what you must learn to do is understand that each individual has dignity because we're created by a creator and given dignity and rights. Rights to stay, rights to grow, rights to be safe rather than to risk. And you can't call one moral and one immoral. That's not true. It's just a matter of personal choice. Here's the best we can teach. Everybody should do the best they can with where they want to be. Sometimes people linger for a long time in the freshman class, and then suddenly they decide to grow. Now they graduate and become entrepreneurs and bless the world. Who knows when those things will occur? Is this helpful? I'm telling you to understand what people want to do. I used to hope that everyone would do the same. I would hope that everyone would want to be extremely successful. I used to say, I'm going to change these people if it kills me. I almost died. I mean, you can't change them. You learn early not to send ducks to eagle school, not a matter of morality, not a matter of demeaning, but whoever wants to do whatever they do, our best encouragement is to do the best you can and keep learning. Do the best you can and keep learning. Do whatever you want to do and keep learning. Here's what I discovered. It was one of the surprising discoveries I made. People of modest means can become sophisticated because learning sophistication and practicing it is not expensive. How much is a book on unique sophistication to bless your life? $30. It's not $3,000. It's not $30,000. How much is a library card? It's free. The study and practice of sophistication is available to everyone, no matter what their modest means or wealthy means. Because jot this down, wealth does not guarantee sophistication. Wealth doesn't guarantee the graces. I know a guy that's rich, he's a clod. This guy's a clod, eats with his elbow in his soup. I mean, he's just a clod. His money has done nothing for him in terms of his sophistication and uniqueness. And yet someone of very modest means can become very sophisticated. They know the graces. They live a unique life even though they have modest means. Interesting. So understand that all life is a pyramid. Let everybody do whatever they wish to do. Encourage everybody to do better, but let people linger if they wish to linger. Let them grow. If they wish to grow, help them change. If they wish to change, okay, here's what's next. If you're working with people to understand, learn to work with the people who deserve it, not the people who need it. Because we must operate like life operates. Life was designed not to give us what we need. Life was designed to give us what we deserve. And if you've got people to work with the ones that deserve it. Now here's the next part that's very important for a leader management to understand. Now you must teach people how to deserve your time. You must teach people how to deserve your help. You say, Mary, if you'll do this and this, I'll do all of this. And if you'll do this and this and this, I'm telling you, I will do all of this. I will meet you more than what? Halfway. But you've got to come toward the halfway part. And probably since I'm so anxious to work with you, if you'll start taking these steps, I'll probably meet you more than halfway. We learn not to go all the way just because of need. Unless someone needs to be rescued, unless the situation is out of control and there's no other way. Next, don't expect the pear tree to bear apples. I used to try to change everything. You can hang apples on a pear tree. I'm telling you, it won't help. You can put up a sign, this is an apple tree. Sure enough, come the season pears. Here's what I learned. You cannot change people, but they can change themselves. You cannot change people, but they can change themselves. Incredible capital in your business isn't what matters, okay? It's not the money that buys you a future. It's your skills that buy you a future. Money and no skills. And I'm telling you, you're still poor money and no ambition. Where are you, money and no courage? You're broke. A little bit of money and a whole lot of courage. That's all we need. I'm looking for people and I'm recruiting back in those days and the money didn't matter. What mattered to me was somebody's willingness, somebody's ingenuity, somebody's willingness to try, right? If they had $1 to invest, that was plenty for me. $1 and some ambition. And I can show you how to get rich, and it'll be one of the classic stories of the company. I go to recruit somebody, they say, I don't have any money. See, I've been looking for you for 6 months. Let me show you how to do it without any money, because here's the rules of capitalism. Got this down. You can either buy and sell, or if you're in certain circumstances, you can sell and buy if you've got ambition. Now, if you haven't got ambition, we can't cure that. And money won't cure lack of ambition. But if you've got $1 and some ambition, I'll show you how to get rich. And even if you don't have $1, I'll show you how to get rich. Now comes the challenge now to produce enough for 2 instead of for 1. Now they decide to have children. Now the man must figure out a way to produce enough for himself and his family, his children. And the question always is, why do that? Why not just take care of himself and said this is self-care first to survive then? To live a better life, he pays that extra price of producing more than he needs for himself so that he can live a better life. Then the next challenge is that the end of it? And the answer is no. Why wouldn't a man think of ways now to produce more than he needs for himself and his family? And the question is, do I work that hard? Why do that? And the answer is to be generous, which is an even higher life. Then I take it 2 more steps. Why not accept the challenge to produce much more than you need for yourself and for your family? Somebody says, well, that's ridiculous. Why do that? You don't understand. It's to live a higher life. Then I take it 1 step further to produce far more than you need. What a way to live extraordinary. It's okay to live an ordinary life and a pretty good life, but how about an extraordinary life to produce far more than you need for yourself and your children? Suppose you make $10 million a year and you and your family only need $3 million. Some families are more expensive than others, but let's say $3 million would pretty well cover most every family. Now you've got $7 million to give to share. How about that kind of life? It's called extraordinary to produce more and far more than you need for yourself. It's best to earn some of that early money in lifestyle. Go to the movies. Take 2 vacations instead of 1. Just some little extra things that now the family gets inspired by this new commitment to earning more and becoming more and making the studies and learning the skills. And whatever you have to do now, you make it more worthwhile for the family by thinking of lifestyle changes that now become very exciting. Go to the concert, my parents said. Don't miss anything. Don't miss the play, the music, the songs, the performances, the movie, whatever's happening at age 93. My father before he died. If you would have called him at 10:30, 11 at night, he wouldn't be home. He's at the rodeo, he's at church, he's at the play, the performance, he's watching the kids play softball at age 93. So he did it as well as taught it. Don't miss anything. So those changes in lifestyle, when I started making some extra money, I opened up an account for my wife and I called it No Questions Asked Account. And I said, here is the checkbook for a new account and it's called No Questions Asked. I'll just keep putting money in there and you spend it for whatever you wish. It was life-changing. It wasn't a fortune. But she didn't have to ask any more for money because I could sense that it was a little embarrassing at times. When she had to ask me for money, I thought, well, that's not good. So the first time I get a chance, here's what I'm going to do. And sure enough, I did it. No questions asked to count. You can't believe what that did. It was absolutely amazing. Anything you can think of that helps to change lifestyle. It's called making a living, but also making a life. Lifestyle, social, friendships, church, community, country, all those things that make a composite of our overall life. Start furnishing that with new vigor, vitality, money, whatever it takes to expand your life into what I call the good life, as well as economics. Doesn't take a lot. How much is a movie, right? Even for a person of modest means, $6 or something costs $60 million to make it, and only costs $6 to see it. Part of it's just simply priority. Less soft drinks, more movies. Everybody's got the money. That's the story I tell of the lady who invested the $1. Now she's a millionaire, so she had the $1. Depends on where you put it. Probably nothing more rewarding than conversation. Sometimes you need to be alone. For all of my busy life, from Milan to New York to Paris to Mexico City to the giant cities of the world, I do seek solitude, but only for short periods of time, not long periods of time. But it is important for me to get away, think and ponder and wonder about my life and what's happening, what's going on, where to go from here. Some of the greatest rewards are in personal conversation. I've got some close friends, some mentors that have been around for the last 50 years. For me, that couple of hours of conversation, you've got enough to feast on and live on for a while till you can have the next one. But it's easy to be a little too busy to go to lunch with a close friend and not miss it, or spend an evening with 2 or 3 families. When they had a place in town, they used to have a dry wheat farm, couple of 1,000 acres in Moses Lake. But we went back to Wheeler where he last went to school. He used to arrive early before the teachers got there and lit the fires in this old stove, 1 or 2 room school, and it was gone. Tried to locate the place where they might have lived and couldn't find it. It's probably gone. The only thing left in Wheeler was a church and a bar. And my dad says, well, that's a pretty good combination. Get messed up in one place and get straightened out in the other. That's good, Papa. Everybody has a different temperament and personality, and it's something that has to be developed, over a period of time. If you're too shy, you should really learn to push that into a small corner and speak up more. If you're a little too loud, maybe you should, calm down just a little bit. But we shouldn't try to just radically become someone else. But that's what sophistication and civilization is supposed to do, is to make us civil, and to be civil in a civil society. We all must deal with that dark side of our nature, the positive side of our nature. And it isn't that it ever gets done or finished, but that we should suppress those things that would cause us trouble not only within ourselves, but cause us trouble with someone else. It's a never-ending challenge, but to still always be who you are. You might describe it as dual nature, and the key to life is to become the most of the good in you and the least of the bad. So it's important also to see if you can't work on those things that you know are not in your best interest, both in your thinking process and developing your plans for the future, or in your process of working with others, sitting at a conference table, or being involved in an enterprise that's a constant when some become wealthy. Now, they have to deal with ego that didn't show its sort of ugly head until, the money was flowing like a river. And now this little gremlin on one shoulder whispers and says, now's the time right to, conquer the world and let everybody know you're the master. And sure enough, it can cause all kinds of problems. One of the greatest difficulties of wealth is, handling this issue of ego and keeping it under control. So we need to reveal who we are, but we also need to master the art of who we are, present it as our best, as it serves us and our children, as it serves us and our friends, as it serves us in our business. But it is a constant and it never ends. But if we can make a personal appeal to ourselves. I want to constantly work on developing the positive side of my nature and do my best to suppress that darker side. That would not allow me to be most of what I can possibly be. I think that's what's important when a president becomes president. It's interesting, what ego might do. The Old Testament says this king came to power and he was a good king. Then the next king came to power and he was a bad king. And that's always happening, whether it's good king, bad king, or whether it's inside of our own head. We all have to deal with that. But you might make this note. It's part of the great adventure.